that I was going to go home with. But right now I'm going to turn my focus and my timer on, or somebody is going to turn my timer on. And I'm doing this because we've heard a lot today on what's being done across the country to mobilize our people to vote. I'd like to acknowledge, we have a slideshow here of some of the work that we've done in the territory. And actually that was the protesting work we've done in the territory, and I'm going to get to that too. But we started to mobilize. We got some t-shirts. We set it up at the Mi'kmaq Summer Games. We had social media out. And it started the momentum. But the greatest success we have had was when the leadership in the communities got involved. And the reason it is important for the leadership in the communities to be involved is our people look up to our leaders. So we need to take a lead. And I don't like when they call me an activist. I'm not an activist, I'm a leader who acts. And I think that's what I'm looking for across the country with our leaders. We need to be out there, we need to direct our people, and we need to make sure that everything is easy for them to go to the polls and have a voice. So one of the things I would recommend is any of the band-led initiatives have Elections Canada there. We have 3 stations at our events. One is you're greeted by somebody checking your ID. If you do not have proper ID, they will give you those band residency letters that was talked about by Tanya earlier. Second station, you go and we'll have volunteers with computers. A lot of people are afraid of computers and don't use them. We had elders come. It takes 2 minutes. We check to see if they're registered. If not, we send them to the 3rd station, which is Elections Canada. It's been very successful. We had 270 at one event. At that one event, out of the 270 people we tried to register that day, over 100 did not have proper ID and would have been turned away at the polls. So it's important to have those IDs and residency letters and advanced polls. The other thing we found is out of the 270, there was over 100 that were not registered with Elections Canada. They couldn't find addresses on reserve. So those are just practical things that communities can take leadership over. Now, I'm going to go on now to talk about the role of our leaders in a little more in depth. And I'm going to talk about sovereignty. I've heard from very good friends, strong, sovereign activists across this country, academics, you know, and people in the community saying this isn't my government and that we have our own government. And to me, we have sovereignty, whether or not we vote in this election or not. In fact, for the Mi'kmaq treaties and our relationship, we are the government that actually gave delegated authority to Canada to be here, to set up their government, to set up their form of democracy. So we're looking at a government that this government or that government having authorities or powers over another. If it's anybody that has the ultimate sovereignty and authority in this country, it's our First Nations, the Mi'kmaq Nation, the Mohawk, the Coast Salish. It's the nations that gave the authority to them. They have delegated authority, so don't feel conflicted that you're picking one or another. In fact, because Indigenous peoples have a hard time looking at these foreign systems of government, it's actually in the UN United Nations protections that Indigenous peoples can participate in state government without losing their own identity, their own ability to participate in their government and their sovereignty. And unfortunately, worldwide, Indigenous peoples do not participate, and that's why rules and laws are made all over the world, especially in South America, where they have no say, against Indigenous people. So the sovereignty question doesn't bother me as much as it does others. The one final thing, I don't know what my time is, on sovereignty, is we actually have our sovereignty recognized and guaranteed already in this country. It is in our treaty relationship. It's in the 200 and some successful court cases in this country that recognize Aboriginal rights, treaty rights, title. We have it recognized in Canada. What we do not have is a government in Canada that follows their law and honors the law and implements the law. And if they did, they would recognize our sovereignty, it would be implemented, and to me, going to the vote, to the polls, is just one more act or assertion of sovereignty. We've gone to the courts across this country, Canadian courts. We were asserting and presenting to this country our sovereignty, and we won over and over and over again. When that didn't work, we went to the front lines and we upheld and protected our territories, and you've seen some of the pictures there. We're on the front line protecting our territories. To me, going to the polls is just one more step in asserting our sovereignty and trying to protect our territories in this country. I'm down to 1 minute. I can't see. Oh, the final thing I want to talk about is, I'm going to go over my 1 minute now, I know it. I'm going to take 2, I'm going to go 8 minutes. Still setting a good swift pace for us. Is the federal parties have top-notch lawyers, strategists, publicists, communications people. And I often speak for missing and murdered Indigenous women, but I'm telling you right now, in this country, I will not speak on or about or for or behalf of missing and murdered Indigenous women for the next 12 days. The reason I'm not going to do that is I really feel that some of these high-paid international publicists are using our women and the issue and the plight of missing and murdered Indigenous women to create a racial divide and fear in this country. And I feel like they're baiting us to get in a dialogue with Canadians on whose fault it is that people go missing and murdered. So this is the last I'm going to speak on this for the next 12 days. I encourage our leaderships at the regional, and I really appreciate hearing from the regional leaders across the country, because they're going to influence our leaders in the communities. And I really encourage everyone to not allow these high-paid publicists, strategists, communications people using our issues and our women, as footing to get ahead and to create fear amongst Canadians, to create race and division. Thank you. 7 minutes and 50 seconds.